All right, let's get right into this. We're about to dive into a real-life ecological mystery. See, the Tasmanian devil is in some serious, serious trouble. And for a long time, we thought we knew exactly who the culprit was, a devastating cancer. But new evidence is telling us it might not be working alone. So first up, let's meet the star of our show, the Tasmanian devil. This isn't just any animal, it's an absolute icon. And get this, it's the biggest carnivorous marsupial on the entire planet. I mean, this is a tough, resilient creature that's literally built to survive. But, despite all that toughness, its very existence is just hanging by a thread. The devil is in a desperate, desperate fight for its future.
For years, the story seemed pretty clear-cut. There was one obvious villain in this whole story, a truly horrific and contagious cancer called devil facial tumor disease. It was the prime suspect, and honestly, for very good reason.
But here is where our investigation really begins. What if that cancer isn't the whole story? What if something else, something much smaller, much harder to see, is actually weakening the devils from the inside and kind of helping the main killer along? Okay, so first things first, let's look at the evidence against our prime suspect, the one everyone thought was solely responsible for this mess. Devil facial tumor disease, or DFDD for short, is every bit as nasty as it sounds. It's a transmissible cancer, which is really rare, and it spreads from one devil to another through biting, which, for them, is super common behavior. Since it was first discovered back in 1996, it has wiped out over 80% of the wild population. Just let that number sink in. 80%. It's absolutely staggering. But here's the thing. For some scientists, that 80% decline, it almost seemed too simple. They started wondering, was the cancer really getting all the credit? It was time to start looking for accomplices. And this led to a totally new question. What if something else was weakening the devil's immune systems? Making them more vulnerable to the cancer in the first place. This new line of thinking led researchers to a tiny but pretty notorious suspect, the common marsupial tick. And listen, this wasn't some small-scale search. The scientific team cast a super wide net. They collected ticks from 35 different wild devils, trapped in 6 key spots all across Tasmania. They really needed a complete picture of what these little parasites might be carrying. So with all those ticks collected, the investigation moves from the wild outdoors right into the lab. It was time for the real forensic work to begin. What secrets were these little guys hiding? The process they used was so meticulous. First, they collected all the ticks. Then, they pooled them into 44 separate samples, based on which devil they came from. Next, and this is the really crucial part, they extracted all the DNA from inside those ticks. And finally, they screened all that genetic material for the fingerprints of any hidden microbes. And you know what? That screening paid off big time. The DNA analysis uncovered something completely unexpected, 2 brand new suspects. So get this. Lurking in the DNA they pulled from those ticks were the signatures of 2 microscopic organisms that had never been documented in this ecosystem before, ever. So, suspect number 1, a species of bacteria called Rickettsia. And we're not talking about a rare find here. A whopping 45.5%, we're talking nearly half of all the tick samples were carrying it. Now, this type of bacteria is what's called an intracellular parasite. It literally invades and lives inside an animal's cells, hijacking them and causing diseases like spotted fevers. And then you have suspects number 2, a protozoan parasite from the genus Hepatozoon. This was found in over a third of the samples. Its relatives are nasty blood parasites, known to infect predators, often going after the liver and muscle tissue, which can lead to these chronic energy-draining illnesses. And here's the real kicker. In almost 14% of the samples, the scientists found both, a dual infection. These ticks weren't just carrying one potential threat. Some of them were a cocktail of 2 completely different microscopic suspects. Okay, so now we have these 2 new suspects on the scene. But the big question is, what does this discovery actually mean for the Tasmanian devil? It's time to connect the clues. Let's put this into perspective, right? That Rickettsia bacteria is a close cousin to microbes that are known to cause serious illnesses by invading an animal's cells. And that hepatozoon parasite, it's related to organisms that can cause these really debilitating long-term health problems in other carnivores, like our house cats. The point is, neither of these are exactly harmless bystanders. And this is how they figured that all out.
Now, these charts might look a little complicated, but just think of them as genetic family trees. It's actually pretty simple. Over on the left is the family tree for the Rickettsia bacteria. Each name is a different species, and see how short the branches are between them? That means they're very closely related. The species they found in the devil's ticks is right here, and you can see it's grouped super close with other species known to cause disease. It's the exact same story for the Hepatozoon chart on the right. These aren't just random microbes, they come from dangerous families.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The researchers themselves concluded that finding these microbes identifies additional potential risks to the health of the devil population. In other words, there are new threats on the board that nobody was even looking for before this. So this is where our story is at. You've got the obvious threat, the one we can all see, that devastating facial cancer. And now we've got this hidden threat, potentially harmful microbes spreading silently through the population inside these ticks.
Which brings us to the ultimate question, the one that could change everything. Could a constant, low-level battle against these blood-borne microbes be wearing down the devil's immune systems, making them way more vulnerable to the cancer that we can see? This discovery could totally change how we try to save them. It's not just about fighting a visible tumor anymore. It's about understanding this whole hidden world of threats these animals face. The case is far from closed.